Dak Prescott, major contract extension for the Dallas Cowboys, the now future franchise quarterback of the team after really years of kind of prolonged contract discussions surrounding Dak. And this is obviously huge for Dak Prescott. He got everything he wanted. Obviously the money, $40 million a year for 4 years, which is right what he was saying all along he wanted. That is top quarterback dollar right there with Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, more than Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, you name it. He is one of the richest players in the league now, at least on a per-year basis, and has now joined the elite of the elite from a financial point of view in this country. So Dak, awesome for him. That is generational wealth. He already had generational wealth after getting the tag once, but now, his great-great-grandkids aren't going to have to work if they don't want to. But awesome news for Dak Prescott. This was an awesome sort of comeback narrative for him and is a great end to a story, really. The Cinderella story of 5th-round pick, 4th-round pick, ends up taking Tony Romo's job, played for cheap for years, wanted the money, didn't get it, got franchise tagged, and the big fear from everyone with the franchise tag is you get tagged, you want that big contract, and you get injured, and that ruins your ability to collect the bag later on. And people were afraid with Dak Prescott. I thought that maybe they were just going to franchise tag him and see how he responded to that major ankle injury. But in Dak Prescott's case, the recovery clearly good enough for the Cowboys to commit to him long term. So that's great in its own right that he's healthy. He's going to be back. Clearly, the Cowboys are a more fun team to watch, a more explosive team. Yes, I still believe have the best receiving core in the NFL, but that receiving core and the upside of that offense gets unlocked by Dak Prescott and his execution as a quarterback, his preparation. He is one of the sharpest, smartest quarterbacks in the NFL and just distributes the ball so well there. So great for Dak Prescott. And beyond this, there's something that was huge for me, not just for Dak, but I think is going to start a trend in the NFL. And that was the addition of a no-tag clause. Not a no-trade clause, a no-tag clause. Dak Prescott cannot be franchise tagged on this contract. And that kind of started with Tom Brady. That was part of how he kind of got his way out, got his way to a more talented roster in Tampa Bay. We saw it with Trent Williams as part of the provisions with the Washington football team. And it's definitely picking up, momentum here. And I think almost every star in about 2 years, when they sign contract extensions, will be working in this no-tag clause. And it's a super fun conversation. It was all around Twitter yesterday with the franchise tags pouring in. And people feel really bad for players that get the franchise tag. And I get that side of it, especially for a guy like Dak Prescott. We're going to talk about some of these other players that when you're super good, just pay the guy, right? But we also talk about players kind of wanting to force their way out. Guys like Deshaun Watson, for example. I would say Trent Brown kind of got his way. Stephon Diggs last year. It's becoming more and more of a trend of player empowerment, players wanting to use their leverage, their power to basically be like their NBA counterparts and go seek, greener pastures, if you will, where they'll be more happy. And I've really pushed back on that. I think part of what makes the NFL so special is that you don't have the players dictating the league, joining these super teams, deciding where they want to play, which in the NBA's case, every single super team that's been formed has been in a major market or in a good climate market. Look at the NFL. 3 of the 4 teams in the championship round, the Buffalo Bills, the Green Bay Packers, and the Kansas City Chiefs. You think in the NBA, LeBron James is going to go take him and his super team to frickin' Kansas City or Green Bay, Wisconsin? No way, no how, never, ever, ever. That is part of what makes the NFL so great. And part of that is the franchise tag. So I'm not totally against the tag. I think there's a lot of situations on players that we saw yesterday that it's fair compensation for the player. This idea that career-ending injuries, case in point Dak Prescott, is definitely a little overstated, and it's good for the league. But there's definitely players that have the leverage and the power to avoid that sort of boogeyman, right? And that's Dak Prescott. That's Tom Brady. Trent Williams, one of the best tackles in football. I think you'll see like Allen Robinson, if he gets a contract extension with the Bears or if they trade him or whatever, he will work in something like this. I really think this is the next step in the player empowerment era for the players in the NFL. Not this idea that they can go on Twitter and express how unhappy they are and force their way out just willy-nilly like that, like James Harden in the NBA, for example. There are examples of that in the NFL, but the NFL does not want that. Money, there's a thing called dead cap in the NFL that's very complicated as well that the NBA doesn't have. So there's a lot of factors there of why this idea that you can just go wherever you want in the NFL, that's never going to happen. But there are players that rightfully so have leverage, that are special talents, or in Dak's case, a special talent, but not an elite talent, but at a premium position, where when you get to the contract negotiation stage, you can say, look, I want a no-tag clause. When this contract's up, I want to be free to go wherever I want. I don't want this boogeyman of the franchise tag where you can hold on to me. That's a huge step for Dak Prescott in maximizing his career wealth, but also for the rest of the NFL to look at this and say, okay, this is kind of that real way that we can have legit contractual power to hit free agency, not have this franchise tag looming over us. So I think we'll see more and more of that. I think that's when you look at things realistically, because everyone, for the most part, all the fans want player empowerment. They want these guys to be happy. They want them to go where they want, be wherever they want. I'm more of a team-minded a team-minded guy. I think that there's a lot of that would be really bad for the league. But logistically speaking, in the case of like Deshaun Watson, for example, like he signed that contract, right? I think what a lot of people don't realize is, yes, they did wrong by him. They lied to him. It's terrible that happened. I'd be pissed too. But logistically speaking, on the Deshaun Watson thing, he signed a contract that said, I'm going to play football for your team for 4 years, and you are now legally tied to, I think it was $110 million in guarantees. I think as casual fans, we look at these teams, they throw money around like nothing and say, okay, $110 million, that's nothing. They can get rid of that in a heartbeat. If they trade Deshaun Watson, they still have to pay him, right? $110 million. And you have to go to the owner of your team and say, I don't want to play football for you, but you're still going to pay me. So that complicates things a little bit when you actually want to look at the contract that he signed and how that stuff works. But in this case with Dak, he went at it from a contractual standpoint and said, let's put this clause in here that gives me some power. That's a real way to create player empowerment. I think that moving forward, I hope Watson gets his trade and all this stuff. But when you really want to talk about players having power, it's not going to come from expressing how unhappy you are on social media. It's going to come in the actual, boardrooms and the details between these contracts. It's going to come through the CBA and that kind of stuff, not just like this intangible sense of you can go wherever you want, whenever you want, because that's just not ever going to be the case in the NFL. So this is a big step for like player empowerment, all that stuff that people want. And for Dak, it's huge. Like he's going to be able to, if he wants to, hit the market and do like what Tom Brady did, for example, and say like, okay, here's all my options. I can go where I get the best chance to win if that's what he wants to do, or he can go where he gets the most money. So he is free of the boogeyman. It's a huge deal. I wanted to spend a lot of time talking about that because this conversation surrounding player empowerment is super hot and heavy right now. But yeah, good for Dak Prescott. Now, I'm going to change tones a little bit here, as I think this is going to be a change in the narrative of Dak Prescott, in that I think the Cinderella story is now over. It's got a happy ending for Dak Prescott. It had really great arcs. There was injuries. There was Tony Romo in front of him, the fall in the draft. The Cinderella story of Dak Prescott to the ascension of one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL had a beautiful ending of him getting what he wanted. Now, I could dive into something I've talked about plenty of times on this show and other videos before, in that winning a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott making $40 million is an extremely tough sell. They already were not all that good of a football team when they had a loaded roster with him counting for 1% of the salary cap. Now he's going to count for over 20% of the salary cap, which is going to severely decrease the talent around him. And hell, it's not just Dak Prescott, who I It's not a bold thing to say he's not an elite quarterback, right? He's either tier 2, tier 3. We can get into that all day, but he's not Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. There's no doubt. Russell Wilson. There's no doubt he's not one of those guys that are consistently elevating the play to an elite level of everyone around, like those other guys. That's not a bold take. He's much closer to, say, Kirk Cousins than he is Aaron Rodgers. Again, not a hot take there. It's not a hot take to say that this contract is going to severely limit the upside of the Dallas Cowboys. You're looking at basically the team that you have right now, which is not very good, right? That defense is a mess. That's the team they're going to have. They're not going to be able to spend money on free agents. They're going to lose talent. I think this contract is probably going to be pretty front-loaded. It's probably going to be about a $16 million hit in the first year, and I imagine that'll go up to over 40 for the upcoming seasons, just because of the way the cap is working with a decreased salary cap due to the COVID season right now. But you're looking at the Cowboys roster, Zeke's going to be gone next year, but that's addition by subtraction. That'll actually be good for the team. But like Tyron Smith, again, a guy that's been injured, probably going to be a cap casualty like next year, which it's not the end of the world, but you are going to probably have to draft a replacement in the draft at left tackle, which is easier said than done. The defense is in shambles right now. You really just have DeMarcus Lawrence and Jalen Smith, and every other position on that defense is a wreck, and they're not going to have any money to invest in that defense. I mean, how many times have we seen Drew Brees, Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers suffer in the playoffs because their defenses just get obliterated no matter how good they are? And those are elite quarterbacks, not Dak Prescott. You're looking at one of their receivers, Michael Gallup, probably gone next year. So really, it's going to be difficult for them to build this roster around Dak Prescott. It's not a hot take to say that they're very likely not going to win a Super Bowl in this 4-year contract with Dak Prescott. And I'm not saying that they made the wrong decision. It's easier for me to sit here from my desk in Minneapolis and say, like, oh, they should have let him go. They should have torn it down. If Jerry at 77 years old or 79 or 80, whatever he is, if he wanted to get serious about winning a Super Bowl, as long as he's running the team, the best decision would have been to let Dak go, tear this thing up, rebuild it, and maybe 5 years from now you have a new core, a fresh cap space, and all this stuff, which I do believe that. I think they had a better chance of going that route than trying to milk this window with a $40 million Dak Prescott. But there's other factors at hand. There's relationships. There's player development and, players being happy or unhappy if you let Dak go. There's selling tickets. There's the risk involved of what if you never find another quarterback like Dak Prescott. So it's easier for me to sit from my desk in Minneapolis and say, the best decision if they wanted to get serious about winning a Super Bowl would be let him go, hit the reset button, maybe you draft a Trey Lance or whatever in this year's class. I don't know, but that's the thing. I don't know what the correct answer would have been, but I do know that this, from my perspective, from everyone, the conversation around this is going to be, they aren't going to do anything with Dak Prescott at $40 million with this team in this 4-year window. And I think that's a pretty sound take. I'm sorry, Cowboys fans, but this is a change in narrative, right? It's from the underdog story of him as a 5th-round pick making all this money now to now, can he win a Super Bowl on this contract, which is the ultimate goal, right? So it's this good, feel-good story. We're all happy for Dak. Great dude. Happy to see him get his money. But, let's be real. You can check the math on this, but I'm pretty sure that it's been over 10 years since a quarterback making over $25 million has won a Super Bowl. In fact, I'm not sure a quarterback making over $25 million has ever won a Super Bowl. Part of what makes Tom Brady so great is he takes pay cuts. He doesn't have this huge liability on his team from a contract standpoint. Russell Wilson, since he's been paid, Seahawks haven't been very good. Aaron Rodgers, they've had a hard time surrounding him with the talent that even he needs to win a Super Bowl. Drew Brees, it's just the math, man. It's just the stats, the analytics, it all backs it up. Quarterback is super important. That's why Dak gets paid $40 million. But if you want to talk about winning a Super Bowl, it's damn hard to do it when you're paying that quarterback that price tag because it is a team sport and you do need a lot of talent around him. So that's going to be the new narrative is, the end of the Cinderella story, and now Dak as one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Can he fit the billing and live up to that and make the Cowboys a consistent playoff contender and elevate these guys? Or as the team falls apart, is this going to be more of a Jared Goff, Carson Wentz situation where 3-4 years from now, they're looking to trade Dak Prescott and hit that reset button? That's just the reality of the situation. So good for Dak, maybe not so good for the Cowboys, but we'll see. I'm excited to watch the Cowboys with Dak Prescott again. It was one of those don't it always seem to know that you don't know what you got till it's gone situation. That offense was super fun with Dak Prescott. And we didn't even mention Mike McCarthy once in that rant. He got to go. Mike McFraud has got to go. If you're going to win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott making $40 million, that freaking dude cannot be your head coach. I'm sorry. He is a total fraud. So that's the next step here is when they go 7-9 this year and their defense is one of the worst in the NFL, who's coaching after Mike McFraud? I'll just leave it with that.